All right. Welcome back, folks, to the FF Face Off. This is a fantasy football podcast. We are going to be discussing waiver wires, all that fun stuff today. We're going to be answering your questions. Of course, we are part of the Face Off Sports Network, which you can find at fffaceoff.com. Follow us on social media on the X at FF Face Off. But yeah, waiver wires today. We had a video that went out earlier, but we're still going to brush up on a couple more players. We'll answer your questions. If you have trade questions, waiver questions, anything, because there's a lot going on with all these injuries. So if you guys have questions, this is why we're here. We got you covered. But yeah, good times. Last but not least, over on the YouTube, feel free to hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell icon, so you can be notified every single time our beautiful selves go live. My name is Michael Hopp. You can follow me on X at the FF Realist. I'm joined by the wonderful, ever-enchanting Pete Nova, who can be followed at Supernova38. That's with 2 R's, of course, as I always like to let you know. Pete, how's it going on this Tuesday?
It's good. Yeah, it's going all right. Waivers is I get in my 12, 15 different leagues ready to go for waivers. It's always so tiring when you join so many leagues and you got to check every single one to make sure you got every single thing in. And then that one league that you just forget about, you realize, and you're like, shit. Yeah. But that's what today's for, and I'm ready to go. So happy to be here.
Yeah, good times. But yeah, absolutely. That's why now I've downshifted my amount of leagues, and now I do more DFS. But yeah, you'll learn, buddy. You'll learn. Also joining us, the ever wonderful, the ever handsome, still not wearing a tank top today, but he did on Saturday. That's why you got to go check out our shows, our previous shows. This way you can catch him, wearing a tank top, looking good. His name is Anthony Servino. He be followed the real NFL guru. Anthony, sweetheart, how is by you?
I feel good. I feel like I look good with or without a tank top, number one.
Oh, yeah.
Number two, our Facebook group has just hit 80,000 members today.
Woohoo.
So, yeah, 80,000. I remember, last June of 2023, I forgot about this group, right? We had it for a few years. It had like 900, maybe 1,000 members in it. All of a sudden, had a couple thousand. All of a sudden, in a year, in a few months, have now 80,000 members in this community. It's amazing.
It's fantastic.
So yeah, it's kind of cool to see. We've come a long way at the Face Off Sports Network.
That's why we're not kidding when we say we can't do it without you guys, because those numbers mean something. So there you go. But all right, so we will get into.
We still need anybody out there want to help. We need a community nickname.
Oh, yes.
You got some of our competitors out there. They have fun little nicknames. We would like a nickname. So maybe somebody, shoot us some suggestions.
Yeah. Make it good. Make it not bad.
The Face Off Fuck Boys. I don't know.
Nope. Not that. No.
Nope. That not that. I thought about the first thing that came into my head was Face Off Fanatics, but then it made me think of the Philly Fanatic, and I hate the Phillies, so I said no.
Tough.
Nope. Yeah, I actually like that. I actually like.
Too bad.
The Face Off Fanatics.
It's dead.
I don't know about that.
All right. Anyway, all right, Pete, do we have any questions at the moment or no?
We do. I'm going to go to KJ first. KJ has been showing up. We appreciate you, man. He's been here a lot for our live shows.
Hello, KJ.
Yeah, appreciate you in here. This is a good one, and I think it's one that we could definitely go into in some detail. It's pretty much I'll treat it like a start sit as well as like a waiver priority. It's Hunter Henry or Mike Gesicki, full PPR. He wants to know which one is better to add based off matchup. So I'm assuming we're gonna just assume this week, and then we could always give a spin on it rest of the season. But it's probably better to just talk. Which one would you prioritize this week? And then which one do you think has a better matchup, which I think ties into both. I'll let Anthony go into this first. And then Hoff, you can go, and then I'll close it out.
Because I can play the special music specifically for Anthony and Mike Gesicki. Go ahead, Anthony.
So Mike Gesicki, one of my guys, right? Here we go. And I feel like, obviously, with this music playing, I have an infatuation with Mike Gesicki. He's one of my highest owned players on a year in and year out basis in fantasy football because when he entered the NFL with Miami, he was one of the more utilized tight ends in the slot. Obviously, hit that speed bump, obviously, with New England and the Mike McDaniel final year in Miami. But I thought this year was the perfect situation. Through 2 games, Mike Gesicki has been playing really good football, utilized in this offense. Even go back to week 1, and I said this on a waiver wire video earlier. He only played 17 snaps in week 1, targeted in the red zone. He actually caught it, but it was called back for the touchdown. But of those 17 offensive snaps, he ran 15 routes. And mind you, like, he's not a great blocker. So Drew Sample and all, they are going to outsnap him on a game-to-game basis. But as long as he's running routes, that's what he's there for. And we saw that against Kansas City, 7 to 9 targets, 91 yards. Upcoming matchups against Washington, Carolina, Baltimore, New York. Now, I got to preface this, like, as bad as Washington is against wide receivers, they're actually number 1 ranked against tight ends. That's an anomaly. I don't think they've played a very good tight end yet. And I don't mind this upcoming 4-game stretch for Mike Gesicki. Wow. And it looks like Joe Burrow's starting to get hot. Meanwhile, Hunter Henry, and here's where it gets tough. You guys talk about upcoming matchups. Henry, you get the Jets. They're middle of the pack against tight ends. San Francisco 3rd, Miami 8th, Houston 7th, Jacksonville 4th, then the Jets again, then Tennessee 2nd. So, like, all of these matchups are against top 10 difficult teams against tight ends. I still think Hunter Henry's a good pickup. I still think he's going to be utilized. But if we're playing matchups and you want to side with the better quarterback, I think Mike Gesicki's the guy you want long term.
Yeah. And the reason why Gesicki never worked out in Miami, which Anthony kind of mentioned, is the fact that Gesicki's not a good blocker. And those Mike McDaniel offenses, they need a tight end that's going to block. So that's why it didn't work out for him with Miami. But as far as a pass catcher, he does just fine, and he's been doing just fine. Right now, he is the tight end 6 on the season, half-point formats. Hunter Henry's right in front of him, 5th. And I get the matchups don't look great for Hunter Henry, but I would go Hunter Henry slightly over Mike Gesicki. And again, I'm somebody who loves Mike Gesicki. I don't love him as much as Anthony does, but I like Mike Gesicki quite a bit too. I got several best ball shares of him, but I just think that eventually these pass catchers are going to wake up in Cincinnati, and that's going to kind of bump Gesicki down the totem pole, so to speak, as opposed to Hunter Henry. He's sitting there with an island of misfit toys there in New England. There's going to be a necessity to get him the ball. The offensive line isn't the best. They're going to need to get the ball out quick. That's where a guy like Hunter Henry can, make his paydays there. So I like that. I like that to continue, even though, like Anthony gave out, the schedule is not great. But I also think that there's also this level of, we need this guy because we don't have anybody else. So they kind of force him the ball. So I'll go Henry slightly over Gesicki, but I love both. Both have been pleasant surprises.
Yeah, I'm with Hoff here. Look, these are 2 really good ads. I mean, if I would put priority, I would be comfortable putting like an extra $1 or 2 on Henry and then putting Gesicki in case you don't get him. That's normally what I do. Just drop the same player. But look, these are 2 guys that, in terms of total points to the first 2 weeks, Hunter Henry, 22.7 PPR, Mike Gesicki, 20.9, like, tight end 4, tight end 5. I don't think many people expected to be, talking about these 2 guys as being this high in terms of rankings on the season for the first 2 weeks. But here's some stuff as to why I prefer Henry. In terms of, snap share, Hunter Henry, 93.4% snap share. That ranks 3rd in the NFL in total snap share for tight ends through 2 weeks. Total routes run, 86.9%. That ranks 1st in the NFL for tight ends. And then target share, 2nd in the NFL. He's getting a 27.5% target share. To Hoff's point, I mean, there's more weapons in Cincinnati. T. Higgins, when he gets back, Jamar Chase isn't going to stay down forever. But I think Gesicki is still a very strong addition as well. But here's the difference. Gesicki is averaging almost 50% less than Hunter Henry in snap share. Target share, he's averaging, he actually has a strong target share, 20%. So he's getting targeted on more routes compared to Hunter Henry, who's on the field 50% more. Gesicki's, pretty close in terms of target share. He is 6th in the NFL for target share. So still commanding the ball when he's out there. And then when it comes to route percentage, Gesicki's 48. So he's running about half of the routes that Henry is, but he's still commanding the football. That's why I just feel like when other guys eventually start to click on this team, Gesicki will start to drop a little bit more in production. And I think Henry, there's just not enough weapons there. I think Jalen Polk will emerge eventually, but outside of that, I don't really love the pass catchers on Patriots.
And just to be clear, Pete, I'm not sure if you're with me on this sentiment. I think you might be, and then Anthony, you could chime in. When we also say that eventually these pass catchers in Cincinnati are going to wake up, this doesn't mean Gesicki's dropping like a brick. I think Gesicki is still going to be used in that offense, and I still think he's going to be one of the better tight ends, back end top 12 maybe, which is still for where you drafted him, where you probably did. You probably got him for free. So just to be clear on that, even if he drops, he's not dropping like a brick. He's still going to be relevant in that offense. And Pete, I think you were probably thinking the same thing.
Kind of the same thing. We have a super chat, but I don't know, D'Anthony, did you have anything you wanted to close out on? Or?
No. I said everything I had to say on Gesicki.
Okay. Taco with the $5 super.
Taco.
We appreciate that.
Taco on Taco Tuesday. Very nice.
Taco Tuesday. I made some tacos last week. Taco, we appreciate it, said he's 2-0. Nice. He said, I got offered Jamar Chase and Deontay for Kyron and Godwin. Do I take that? My team is Hurts. Quarterback is Hurts. Kyron and James Conner are the starting running backs. He's got A.J. Brown, Godwin, Laporta, and then Mason, and his bench is Pickens, Dowdle, Rome, Mostert. This is a really good team. I think, you have a chance to keep A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase. If I'm understanding this correctly, he's getting Chase and Deontay. You're saying no, you would rather Kyron and Godwin.
Yep. I love what I've seen. I've said it about 2001 times. The Buccaneers said during the offseason they wanted to put Godwin back in the slot. He's been in the slot more this year, and we've seen what happens. He's been productive in both of these first two games. Eventually, this Buccaneers offense is going to slow down. I get it. Like they're not going to be the greatest show on turf, but I think that Godwin is still going. I think Godwin is going to be one of the more consistent wide receivers for fantasy this season. We say some things early on we take with a grain of salt. Some we buy into. I'm buying into Chris Godwin. So no, I'm not moving him for Deontay Johnson, who is in an offense where we don't know what's going on. Yep. And then we got Jamar Chase, where, you know what, if Jamar Chase suddenly says, you know what, my hammy hurts, and he wants to get paid, he could sit. So I don't want to hinge it on that. I get the keeper value. I think he says keeper, or I don't know.
No, he didn't say keeper.
Oh, he didn't mention that. So no, then not even. So yeah, no, I would stay with Kyron and Godwin personally.
Yeah, I think I agree here. I don't know what Deontay Johnson's going to be. I was in on him, within reason, high floor player going into the offseason, and he's going to get better with Andy Dalton. But who knows? They could always go back to Bryce Young at any time. Right. On top of that, Jamar Chase, this is the buy now window because that Cincy team, they get Washington this week, and Jamar Chase is probably going to go off. But if you look at your team, Kyron Williams, if you move Kyron Williams, you're not getting a running back, and you're stuck with Jordan Mason, James Conner. And then what do you do when CMC comes back? What do you do if Jordan Mason gets banged up? You're looking at Rico Dowdle and Raheem Mostert. So I think you're significantly downgrading your running back position. And when it comes to the wide receiver position, I'm with Hoff. I was all in on Godwin this offseason, faded Evans for Godwin, when it comes to wanting a piece. And it wasn't not on top of, we're going to put Godwin back. It was more of the why behind it. And, Liam Cohen, if you do your research and homework on Liam Cohen, comes from that McVay tree and that power slot role, that Cooper Kupp role with all that volume I envisioned for Chris Godwin. And also on top of that, Baker played a big role. And what people forget, David Canales is leaving. But what people are forgetting is that Baker played with Liam Cohen with the Rams.
Yeah.
So this was the perfect storm for Chris Godwin. So I'm not making this move. And you know, Kyron might have a bumpy road ahead because there's a lot of, a lot of stuff going on with the Rams. But like, look what's happening with Devin Achane. Like, Devin Achane looks like the biggest benefactor from this Tua injury. And we could see a lot more checkdowns going in Kyron's direction if these wide receivers can't be schemed open by McVay. So yeah, I like your team as is. You're 2-0. I don't know. Like, I get Chase is a big upgrade, but really, is it worth downgrading your running back position? Because my worry, again, looking ahead, Jordan Mason, eventually CMC comes back, and what do you do there? And also James Conner injury history. What do you I would like that three-headed monster you have at running back to stay intact right now.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have an expendable player, might be George Pickens, and I love Pickens. Once he pops, sell him high.
Yeah, that too, by the way. And then Pete, I'm sorry, you can go, but I was just gonna say, and actually credit to your Broncos. Made George Pickens look ordinary, took him out of the game. When meanwhile, week one, he played very well. Week one, so
I mean, a little bit. I mean, there was some PI. He got screwed up on a nice catch. I think that he called. There was PI, and the refs were really bad in that game anyway.
Well, I'm just saying, just from someone who's looking at the box score and not looking into the film, like say you are, just on the surface, they may say, "Oh, Pickens, geez, he had a shit week. This guy's going to stink." But meanwhile, I think he's going to be very good.
Yeah, I also look. I mean, I don't want to divulge into Pickens, and I'm curious. I think he'll be better if they roll out Russ, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know people like Fields, and this isn't me going off, but like I just think that Russ with the deep ball, and I just think it would favor Pickens a little bit more. But that's just me. In terms of this question, to close it out, I'm in agreement with both of you guys. I don't think you need to force anything here. I'm okay with selling Kyron. That's fine.
Sure.
Chris Godwin, but in a vacuum, if I didn't know what this team was, I'd say it's a pretty fair deal. You're buying Jamar Chase pretty low, and Godwin you're selling pretty high. And look, Deontay with Andy Dalton could be better. Andy Dalton might be able to get the ball out quick, and it might help out Deontay Johnson, and you're buying him pretty low. But at the same time, you don't want to cut your nose off to spite your face here, and I feel like you're doing that. You're 2-0. Kind of what Anthony said. Like, don't crush your RB position, because if Jordan Mason, who knows what Jordan Mason's going to be when CMC comes back, just enjoy that lottery ticket while you have it. And I would just maybe look to move Kyron possibly. If you could get something decent, it's got to be a running back back.
You got to get right. Exactly. That's literally what I was just going to say. You got to get a running back to what Anthony was saying. And I'll just flash the graphic on the screen before we get to the next question for the hell of it. The waiver wire video, there is a waiver wire video up, but yeah, Justin Fields, 20% rostered. And, the Steelers have said they're going to prepare as if Justin Fields is starting this week. So I guess Russell Wilson's not quite ready. So just a FYI.
Hey, well, while we're here, there was, and I know this kind of jumped the chat, but it's right next to the super chat, and it's kind of similar. He said, should I try to trade Kyron or JK for Chase? I was never a big J.K. Dobbins fan, but if you could move Kyron for Chase right now, either of these guys, to be honest, I mean, Dobbins, I worry about the injury history, but he's been so good that it's hard to move him. Kyron, that offensive line stinks, guys.
Is that really us admitting defeat, Pete?
Maybe.
By saying we'd rather trade Kyron than JK?
It could be. I mean, it really could be. I got to give credit where it's due. I worry about the injury history with Dobbins, I think, but this is also exactly what we talked about. We're now talking about trading Dobbins for Jamar Chase. We talked about selling Dobbins high. This is the exact definition of selling high. I don't know if the person will do it, but if you could get that done, absolutely.
Here, like I was so adamantly against selling Dobbins out of week one. And a big reason is because you never want to sell too early. And, when you looked at the matchup, this was another smash spot. Now, in this situation, if you can move J.K. Dobbins for Jamar Chase, I say do it. Because last week, after one game, you were not getting Jamar Chase back. But after 2 games of that production, all of a sudden, people are less worried about the injury history. And now I would do it. It's the same thing with Mason. When everybody was like, what do I do with Mason? I'm going to move him after week 1. Like, if you watched the broadcast, they said CMC is probably going to sit week 2. So it's like, no, you wait another game. Like, so at this point, as much as I love Dobbins, if you can get Jamar Chase or that quality of a player, yes, you sell. Right? Am I crazy here?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I'm right there with
Like
you.
you're literally
I'm
moving
just surprised you're
Dobbins, who
saying
was
it, but
on
yeah.
a waiver wire or like
Yeah.
round 12 or 13 for a first round draft pick with, I mean, yeah, you got to do it.
Anthony, very important from our resident troll ATL. He said, I heard Anthony's buying a Brock Bowers jersey.
I might.
And also,
I heard some of the proceeds go to the receding hairline fund. So I like supporting charities.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. No, Brock Bowers is dealing with it right now. That's for damn
Brock
sure.
Bowers is going to kick my ass if he ever sees me.
He's just got to shave his head at this point. And I will just say before Pete moves on to another question, Pete did flash up multiple comments about tank tops. So I've decided I am going to find a sound drop tonight having to do with tank tops.
Listen, Joe, you're not the first one who's asked about face-off gear. We had it years ago when we were a little bit smaller of a brand.
Well, just for the podcast listeners.
I have merch myself.
Yeah.
And we're looking to bring it back. So very soon, hopefully, we will be bringing FF face-off merch back.
There you go.
Some of my stuff has holes in it.
Yeah, I was going to say for clarity for the podcast listeners. We are being asked by Joe, is there somewhere that he can get some face-off merch? So, yeah, we're going to bring that back, but we're going to bring it back with the OG logo up there because that's my favorite logo.
That's still not circular. That's still not circular.
I tried today, damn it. I'll try again tomorrow. I tried. I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead, buddy.
You're good. So I wanted to shift before we get to the next question. I had a topic that I talked about on Twitter, and I want to get both of your advice or just your thoughts on this. But Christian Kirk, Christian Kirk, are we worried? I'm going to pull up some stats.
Oh, nice.
What?
No, Joe Carlton. Oh, no. Joe Carlton saying, mail me a picture.
When we make merch, we're gonna make Servino's vape a fucking thing.
Yeah. Servino's vape. Yeah, you can get like a wrap on the vape that says something like that too, probably.
Yeah.
All right,
anyway,
so
go ahead.
So
Christian Kirk.
Yeah, Christian Kirk. I mean, like, are we nervous a little bit, guys? Because I have a bold take here, and I want to read off some stats and then give my bold take, and then just see where you guys land after it. But Christian Kirk, in terms of last week, he ran 86% of his routes were in the slot for week 2. He received 3 targets. That's it. He ranked 103 out of 104 qualified receivers that ran 3 routes in his yards per route run. He had a minus 0.03 for his yards per route run last week. That was per Pro Football Focus. Now, I don't know how somebody has a negative. I might be reading that wrong, but either way, I looked at some of the film and it was bad. And, when it comes to separation score, last week, his separation, he was 40th in separation score from the slot. That's pretty hard to do as a starting receiver when you're getting that many reps in the slot. And 37th overall in separation score with routes outside of the slot. So he's not even getting open on the outside either. His remaining schedule for the next 4 games, at least, the Bills, who are 28th in points allowed for wide receivers, Texans, who are 13th, Colts, who are 5th, and the Bears, who are 21st. So a pretty average schedule. It comes out to about 16, which is literally the definition of average when you take all of them and divide it by 4. About 16 in terms of average for points allowed to the wide receiver position. But Brian Thomas Jr., guys, I mean, like, he is very high up there in terms of yards per route run. It just, the utilization and the way that they're using Christian Kirk is starting to worry me in this offense. Is it a bold take to say Brian Thomas over Christian Kirk for the rest of the season? And it's tough sledding for the next 4 weeks. It doesn't look like it's going to get much better for Christian Kirk, but is that a hot take? And is that something that you guys can get on board with, or do you need to see it a little bit more?
It's not while I'll say I need to see it a little bit more, I'll also say I don't think that's a bold take. I played the music earlier to joke with Anthony about his love for Mike Gesicki. You could play the same music when I talk about Brian Thomas. So, listen, 4 targets last week, caught 2 of them for 94 yards. I get it. You want a little more receptions there. Would have been nice to get in the end zone. But no, I mean, I think Kirk will play better than he has in the first 2 weeks. But I do think that Brian Thomas is a wide receiver who kind of, I guess, fell by the wayside, so to speak, only due in large part to just how talented the receivers were in this NFL draft. Those wide receivers that all went in the first round. So I don't think it's crazy to say that at all.
Anthony?
And what do you got, buddy?
It's just, I don't know what I feel or what I see with this Jacksonville offense right now.
That's true.
The past 2 games
hasn't been great.
Cleveland, Miami, 7-3 against fantasy quarterbacks. But he's throwing like week 1, Lawrence 21 attempts, last week 30, but his completion percentage last week, and even week 1, 57.1, last week 46.7, 220 yards, under 7.7 yards per attempt in back-to-back games. Something's wrong here, and a lot of it. I know Jim Coventry on RotoWire, got all over. It seemed like every show this summer, he was just down on Press Taylor. He's not a Press Taylor guy. I think they need to pull the plug fast on Press Taylor, and maybe Doug Peterson handles the offense. Christian Kirk has been too heavily involved in this offense since he's been there to just disintegrate like this. And it's been a disintegration. Like last week, Christian Kirk had -1 How do you have -1 receiving yard?
Yeah.
And so and then on the Brian Thomas side, he's showing his big playability.
Yeah.
Back-to-back games, putting up the yards. I think he scored a touchdown in week 1, brought the yards last week, but he has not exceeded 4 targets. So I think it's bold, not because of the talent, but because I have not seen the target share yet. And I feel like it's unfair to me, because when I warned people about Xavier Worthy, we saw that in week 2. He didn't exceed 3 or 4 targets in week 2. So until I see more volume, like if Brian Thomas gets like the Calvin Ridley treatment from last year, I think he's going to be an animal. But until I see the target uptick in Brian Thomas's favor, then I do think it's a little bit of a hot take, because eventually either Christian Kirk's going to get involved or maybe Engram comes back. But yeah, I just need more targets going in Brian Thomas's direction. Then I'm with you guys.
And by the way, maybe even Christian Kirk could play better, but still Brian Thomas is such a factor there that it's not what we've seen previously from Christian Kirk,
I mean, I want you to just riddle me this, okay? And I totally it's not a Christian Kirk thing, it's just a utilization thing. Press Taylor, I watched the film, and we have the ability to do that with NFL Pro, which has been nice, but I watched the film, man, and they're just not. Are you okay, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Gabe Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Davis leads this wide receiver room, 101 targets 101 snaps to 83.
Something we all predicted.
Yeah.
To 79, and last week 7 targets, including 2 in the red zone.
Yeah.
I like Gabe Davis. Brian Thomas should be getting 7 targets over Gabe Davis.
But here's the thing. Yards per route run in the first 2 weeks of the season, Brian Thomas Jr. is 9th in the NFL for yards per route run in 2 games. His ADOT, they're throwing the ball. He's 12th in the NFL for receivers that have a minimum of I believe 9 targets, not even 5 targets. So they're throwing it deep to him. They're using him as a big play guy. And I posted a video on Twitter of a Trevor Lawrence play in a tight shot. They ran a pick play in the end zone where Kirk picked the they were running it together, Kirk and Thomas. Thomas was wide open on a slant. They're even using him on those kinds of plays. He should have scored a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence just rolled out, and that's on my Twitter if you follow me. But Trevor Lawrence just rolls out of a clean pocket. It's just frustrating. I'm more and to Joe's point, I'm having issues with Lawrence, It's year 4 and he's still not putting it all together. And at some point we have to question, can he do it? Is it all the coaching staff? Is it a mixture of both? Like we gave him the benefit of the doubt with Urban Meyer, which was a train wreck, but Doug Peterson's supposed to be like a strong offensive mind. Last year we said it was the offensive line. This year we're saying it's Prez Taylor. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Like at some point, Trevor Lawrence was anointed as this amazing talent, and he's just not doing it.
Yeah, that could exist.
Yeah.
Sure.
So rant over, but I was curious, just to see what your guys' thoughts. We have a lot of questions, so why don't we start digging into some of them? Jared is here. Jared Fortin, and another friend of the show. He said, "Hey guys, what wide receiver should I grab in PPR to start?" He lost Debo, Cup. Sorry to hear that. He's wondering if it should go for Jennings or Demarcus Robinson or Quentin Johnston or Wan'Dale Robinson. He said, also, would you trade Singletary and Cooks for Shakir and Madison? I can afford. I would do the deal for Shakir and Madison if you can afford to lose Singletary. Absolutely, especially you're hurting that wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I love Brian Thomas, but right behind him, my side piece would be Khalil Shakir. So yeah, I would do that deal. I think Jennings is going to get more targets, but I don't know how consistent those targets will be on a week-to-week basis, as opposed to, say, for a Demarcus Robinson, maybe like a Whittington. Those guys are going to get targets, and I think on a more consistent basis than Juwan Jennings will, because Shanahan will scheme a game however he wants. So that's the one wild card when dealing with Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense.
Yeah, still.
And I keep forgetting, not Cowing. Who's the guy that got shot?
Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying he's week to week. Maybe he might be back before Debo is. I think Demarcus Robinson's the guy that I would go after out of the group of guys that he named. Quentin Johnston had 2 touchdown catches against Carolina. He wasn't really used much after that, and I'm just still not sold on Johnston. Kudos to him. But I need to see him. I don't. That's a running football team. This Rams defense stinks. They're gonna have to throw the football. They're gonna be playing from behind. And Robinson should have value for at least the next 4 or 5 weeks.
And I'll say this, just a quick little state of the union for the 49ers. I was not on yesterday. I gave myself a mental health day to relax and chill, which surprisingly enough had nothing to do with the 49ers, even though it should have, because it's going rough over there. CMC's out now. Debo's out. I ultimately think 2 things. I think this is where Brock Purdy's got to earn his contract that he is going to sign at some point. And I think this is Brandon Ayuk has to earn the contract that he has now been given, that he admittedly said, I gave them a harder time than I should have. Well, give us a little more on the field then. Now it's time. So I think they'll ultimately be okay. I think they'll still win the division. I think they're losing 2 games before the bye. For the hell of it, I'll even just tell you, they're going to lose to the Chiefs because of what they do. And I think the Cardinals are going to sneak in there and get one, which means Anthony's going to say, oh, the Cardinals are going to win the division. And I'm going to say, okay, whatever. But yeah, so those are the 2 losses that they'll have before the bye. But they'll be all right. They'll be all right.
Yeah, they'll
be right. Hang in there.
Hang in there. It can't be worse. It can't be worse than the Broncos. So
no one else get injured, though, please.
Hang your cap,
please. Fuck's sake.
Upper 90 said, who would you pick up? He said Quentin Johnston, Alec Pierce, Jerry Jeudy, Xavier Legette. It's Jerry Jeudy for me. I don't know what you think, Hoff. Alec Pierce has been phenomenal.
Yeah,
and that's probably who you're going to say. Josh Downs coming back. I think I lean Jeudy here.
I'm actually gonna go. I was gonna say 2 guys that you didn't pick, and again, he can only pick up 1, but. Alec Pierce would be the guy, but like you just said, Downs is coming back. This can kind of go away. I do think Quentin Johnston could be something in this offense. Obviously, I'm a little worried. We don't know what the status is of Justin Herbert going into week 3, but just on the surface, I like what I've seen out of Quentin Johnston in terms of in terms of him getting targets and so on and so forth. So I like him a little bit over Jerry Jeudy. I will just say, Jeudy has he's played well. He's played well so far. I dig it, but I would go Johnston out of those players. Xavier Legette is an
Yeah, not even on
absolute
the radar.
afterthought. Absolute afterthought.
And we could be absolutely wrong.
And it's not his fault.
Hey, but look, I mean, Dalton could come out and that offense might look better, and maybe Legette is, but until I see it, I'm not prioritizing him over any of those guys, to be completely honest with you. Alicia Marie. Do you know Alicia?
No, just saying hello.
All right. She said, am I crazy for starting Godwin over Chase this week? I also have Nico Collins starting. My flex is Dobbins. Do I pull Chase off of my bench? If so, who do I sit? Help.
Yeah. Well, I made that comment because I always like to see new faces in our chat asking questions. But we talked about this a little bit earlier, actually, in terms of a trade question with these players, that being Godwin and Chase. No, I don't think that's crazy at all to start Godwin. I think that's you looking at the first 2 weeks of the season, and you're working off of that. So I think at some point you have to adapt over what you're seeing as opposed to what's on the back of the card, in terms of the numbers. So no, I don't think you're crazy for starting Godwin over Chase. I would actually do that. Nico Collins is a effing stud. So, I don't know why I said effing. He's a fucking stud. So I like that. But yeah, I think you put Chase in your bench right now.
Here, I can't do that. Jamar Chase gets the Washington Commanders. Yeah. And look what neighbors. Wan'Dale Robinson scored. All 3 Buccaneers receivers went off against this secondary. And, Cincinnati 0-2. Jamar Chase a little ticked off. He's not getting the targets. I think this is the coming out party. Now Chris Godwin, they get Denver. Right now, Denver #1 against fantasy receivers. Yeah. Surtain, we believe he's going to be, can you make the case he's going to be on Evans? And that's going to open things up to Godwin? Yeah. Yes. But the one I might sit it might be J.K. Dobbins. As much as I love Dobbins, 7th ranked against fantasy running backs Pittsburgh defense in Pittsburgh. This might be the week to sit him. But I can't. And I would rather take a 0 from Jamar Chase than to tell you to sit him against his secondary.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And look, to Anthony's point, and look, I'm a Broncos fan, so JSN played the slot, and Surtain locked up DK Metcalf, and JSN didn't do anything in their matchup. So and again, Pittsburgh, they really only have Pickens. They don't really have a much other stout or established weapons. So you have to start Chase, and I mean, you're starting Nico. I think to Anthony's point, maybe you bench Dobbins in a tough matchup. I think
okay.
Yeah, I think, but I still think I think you start Dobbins over Godwin, and the reason being is that's a low scoring game probably. That game script wise lends itself to the Broncos rushing attack stinks. It has nothing to do with the Steelers, who is good. The Broncos stink. They can't run the football. So Bijan looked fine against them in week 1. Not to say that this isn't a good defense, but I think Dobbins, the game script, it's not going to get away from them. They'll continue to give him the ball, I think. And you're starting Nico, and I can't, in good faith, sit Chase with what wide receivers have done to Washington.
Through two games, Washington's secondary have combined 30 receptions, 373 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll say this. You guys have talked me into playing Chase, but then I would bench Dobbins for Godwin, and I'll say if any of you want to take a bet on Dobbins or Godwin this week, I'll take it, a pizza bet.
I mean, and for context, by the way, Denver's secondary 17 for 174. They're completely locking down passing attacks. Granted, what do they play? Pittsburgh and who else?
Seattle, who has JSN and Lockett and Lockett.
I mean, so
Jaquan McMillan is one of the better. He's one of the better slot corners in the NFL. I will take the pizza bet with you, Hoff. We have 2 super chats, so I do want to get to those because they've been waiting. So why don't we just pull Gabriel first, who sent a question in about 12 minutes ago and then sent the super chat in 6 minutes ago because he was tired of waiting. So we apologize, but thank you
Gabriel.
for sending that in. That's the point of the super chats. Sometimes we get carried away. So we appreciate it. He said, Tan Man, PPR, That came out weird. 10-man PPR. Murray, Gibbs, Mason, Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill. Hold on. He's asking, would you pick up Dowdle or Bucky Irving if both drop AD or Bigsby? I think Bigsby is a drop based on what I saw with I think it's the Ernest Johnson.
He's got the injury too, Bigsby. So
yeah, I think Bigsby's the obvious drop, and I would pick up Bucky over Dowdle. I don't know who AD is. Is he AD Mitchell? AD Mitchell.
That's what I was guessing was Adonai Mitchell, but
I wouldn't drop AD. I wouldn't drop AD.
Yeah, I would drop Bigsby. I would drop Bigsby to get Bucky.
So
that's what I would do.
I would do that as well.
Why wouldn't you drop Adonai Mitchell with Downs coming back, Alec Pierce looking like a real thing? I think AD Mitchell's the odd man out.
Okay, but I mean, well, here's the other thing, and I don't know, Pete, if you're thinking the same thing here, but I mean, like, is it that serious of a discussion between Adonai Mitchell and Tank Bigsby? Like, you know, you're like they both to me, they're both worth cutting. But I'm saying Tank Bigsby because I know Tank Bigsby is dealing with the injury now.
Yeah.
So, and we just talked about the Jacksonville offense, saying how worried we are about them. So that's why it's an easy one for me. But I could also,
I just think that running back,
it's a coin flip.
The running back handcuff to ETN and Bigsby week 1, 12 for 73, ran more efficiently.
Sure.
And the reason why he didn't get any work is that he suffered that shoulder injury early and didn't play another offensive snap. I think that handcuff to ETN is more valuable than Adonai Mitchell, who might be, once Downs comes back, the number 4 receiver, maybe even number 5 to Ashton Doolin.
See, here's the only thing I would say is so his running backs are Gibbs and Jordan Mason. Like Mason could go away at some point. Bucky looks like he could have standalone value, and Rachaad White's hurt. So Bucky Irving's the lock here. Like he is the clear cut. Go pick him up. Whether you're dropping AD or Bigsby, I can understand not rostering AD because look, he's got Nico Collins and he's got Tyreek Hill and he's got Rashee Rice, and then his bench is BTJ, Waddle. Like he's got the wide receiver power. He probably doesn't need AD, but we got to also remember, guys, like trade these guys then. Like go try to trade them, even if it's for FAB. I mean, Sleeper does it. Like go send AD Mitchell to someone for like $15 FAB if you have $100 budget and see if somebody bites. Like let shift your mindset to say, like, I when I know I'm going to drop somebody, like I almost send that player, and it usually gets around where people will be like, Pete sent me this guy for $5 FAB, and everyone's shitting on him
in 10 minutes.
Right, because everybody knows I'm dropping him. But it's like, all right, well, you might not be able to get him, so you might as well make the deal. It's kind of like what teams do in professional sports when they say they're cutting somebody, and then they make a trade because they're like, hey, you get the priority over everybody else. So I can understand dropping AD and keeping Bigsby. But I think my question would be like Rico Dowdle over Bigsby. I don't know. I didn't watch enough of that Cowboys game because it was a blowout. Is Dowdle worth it over Bigsby? Anthony maybe would know more. I don't know.
I watched some of that game actually, but
yeah.
I mean, Dowdle had a nice game because he had that the passing down work. But we know the goal line work's going to probably go to Zeke. Like that backfield is such a mess right now. Or I think I'd rather have because if you look, like having the number 1 running back in Dallas right now isn't great. If ETN goes down, you have the number 1 running back in Jacksonville, and that's a valuable role. You also have Braylon Allen. If something happens to Breece Hall, like you have 2 of the most valuable 3 with Mason.
Yeah.
Look what Mason did for you, and anything can happen when you have. That's why I like having other people's handcuffs over my own sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
And even Bigsby, somebody's going to pick Bigsby up if you drop him. So like, go to the ETN owner and go try to trade him. Like if at that point, if you're at that point, I think over kind of mulling it over, I think I keep Bucky and keep Bigsby. Pick up Bucky, drop AD. And keep Bigsby and don't worry about Dowdle. Did you want to say anything else, Hoff?
No, it's only piggybacking off of what you literally just said and what I was saying to Anthony earlier. I feel like it'd be a coin flip between these two. But Anthony has talked a lot about the handcuffs. So you know what? All right, fine. I would drop AD then to get Bucky. But The one thing is clear, which we already established. Bucky is the guy we are picking up here.
Yeah.
And Anthony, really quick before we get to the next super chat, didn't we have a How About Them Cowboys sound drop?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if we still have it. I can upload
No,
it.
we
but
don't.
We do have one.
We don't.
We had
I
one
was going to play it while you were
soundboard.
talking about the Cowboys. We'll get it. We'll be fine. That's an off-air thing. What we said, we don't have it.
You were sad because we didn't have the drop
Super
anymore.
chats to get to, but everyone whistle. I just want to Whistle Dick. I like that. I like that name.
No shit. No shit.
Whistle Dick.
Yeah.
Why don't you read this one off?
Balls. Cock balls.
Come on,
Whistle
grow up.
Dick's like a name for a small dog.
As Anthony's like, we got super chats to get to.
Yeah. William Stevenson does ask. He sends in a super chat. Great friend of the show. Great friend, like damn near family member of the show. He says, as we venture into week 3, are there clear buy low, sell high candidates at each position? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Love you all. Go Birds. Well, I love everything except for the latter. Tell Nick Sirianni to make some better decisions. Anyway, yeah, I think there are some buy low, sell highs. I think maybe we should do some more content on that, Anthony. But yeah, I think that's kind of I think there's definitely some buy low and sell high. Anthony, can you think of one off the top of your head? Somebody you might want to buy low or somebody you might want to sell high on?
Well, yeah, I do. I actually do a video for this at RotoWire. And I did that this morning, so I do have a few names in the back of my mind that, Jamar Chase for one, coming off back-to-back bad games. This is the buy low window. It's happening now because, again, you get Washington this week. Jamar Chase is going to remind everybody why he's a top 10, top 8 pick in fantasy football. So if you want Jamar Chase, now might be the time. And the Jamar Chase fantasy manager might be like, maybe they just want to wash their hands of a situation. They're afraid of a Burrow injury. Like there are some reasons to move off of Jamar Chase, but those reasons are going to go out the door on Sunday as long as everything goes the way we think it's going to go in Miami. Another buy low would be Ramondre Stevenson. Ram Stevenson, back-to-back games over 15 PPR points. This Patriots offense doesn't look bad, right? And we know that the one season out of 3 years where Ramondre was healthy, he was a top 15 fantasy back, I believe, in fantasy points per game. 21 PPR points week 1, 17 last week. And this upcoming schedule, middle of the pack Jets against the running back, middle of the pack 49ers, Miami, bottom 5 team against fantasy running backs. So your next 3-game window, Ram could keep piling up these games over 15 PPR points. Right now, it could look like a mirage. You might still be able to get them. But if he racks up a couple of more games with similar production, people are going to value Ramondre Stevenson as a back-end running back 1 and the pricing to be too high. So right off the top of my head, these are 2 guys that I talked about today that you might want to buy low on.
Yeah, I do want to add one player, Jared Goff. Jared Goff is 4th in the NFL for passing yards, 524. His passing attempts, he's in the first 2 weeks of the year, most in the NFL, 82. And right now for fantasy, I mean, it's been bad for Goff, right? I mean, he right now in fantasy is the quarterback 25. This is a guy that plays in 14 dome games this year. He's got a great matchup against Arizona this week. You're probably not going to get him much lower. They just need to get into the end zone, and he needs to stop making mistakes with the football. But they are throwing the ball a lot. So Jared Goff is somebody I would definitely consider targeting. He was one of my favorite guys to look at if you missed out on elite quarterbacks in fantasy this year. He'll bounce back. I'm not worried about Goff. It's been just a little bit of a weird 2 weeks for him. But, with the emergence of J-Mo, Laporta hasn't really done anything yet. If they can get Laporta going and J-Mo and St. Brown can continue at the rate that they're playing, the schedule is favorable, the dome games. So I think he's an awesome buy low if you're looking at quarterback as well.
Who's first in the NFL in passing yards? Who's first?
I think it's Brock Purdy.
Oh, okay.
Is he really?
Yeah, he is.
It is. Yeah. 550.
No, that negative game script on Sunday must have helped him.
Gardner Minshew's second. All right, we have a couple more super chats.
Are we selling high on Alvin Kamara though? Is Alvin Kamara a sell
I'm
high,
not
or
personally.
are we holding him?
I'm holding him.
I'm holding him. I mean, listen,
I don't know how to assess that situation.
He's not going to do what he did against Dallas every single week of the season, but I'm also not selling him. So
yeah,
I'm not flip him for Saquon Barkley. You doing it?
Oh
well, yes,
yeah,
that's
no
an
one's
extreme.
doing it.
Well,
No
to me, that's an extreme because
it's an extreme. Kamara's a running back.
It is
him and Dobbins.
If you had a good enough team, I would trade Kamara for CMC. If the CMC owner's 0-2 and they're skittish and you're 2-0 and you have a good enough,
if you have a good enough roster,
that's a really good idea.
Endure it.
Yeah, I mean,
endure it, sure.
I think that's worth it. Big Draft Energy coming in here with a Canadian 5. Says, what's going on? He said, needs some smelling salt advice after week 2.
Got a new one this week.
Very good. Oh,
he said, in my Super Bowl tickets league, I guess winner, maybe it's probably a big league or something, tournament style or something. He said, I have Evan Ingram, Hollywood Brown, Cooper Kupp, and potentially JJ hurt. Do I retire?
Ouch.
That's tough sledding. JJ, I think is fine though, right, guys? I mean, I think he's banged up, but they said he's going to play.
He's supposed to be fine. It's not supposed to be serious. So,
but they say everybody's fine this year, and
that's true.
Should happen.
That's gross, but you know what, man? You got to keep running through the fire, buddy. That's it.
I mean, you could
never retire, never surrender.
Yeah, there are tight ends out there like we talked about: Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, wide receivers, both Rams, wideouts, Robinson, Tyler Johnson. They, who knows? Like if this offensive line gets healthy, it's still McVay, it's still Stafford, and this offense can click. And Marcus Robinson, we talked about his stretch last year. In the final few games of the regular season, over 13 PPR points in all of them, playing for injured Puka and Cooper Kupp. So there are players that you could save your season, but yeah, that's a son of a bitch of a, I have one or two teams like that myself because I had a lot of Hollywood. I think I had a build with AJ Brown and Puka. Like what the fuck?
That's I mean,
and Waddle and fucking Waddle on one team.
I'm so glad I faded. I don't have a single share of Waddle or T. Higgins, and I'm so glad I went with my gut on that. I mean, Waddle's still healthy, but I mean the camp stuff worried me, and then now the quarterback stuff.
That is one mistake. I've never been a T. Higgins guy, and this year, somebody, I'm not going to name their names, talked me into it.
Name those names.
I said he was in a contract year. Maybe I hope
it wasn't. No, it wasn't anybody in his fucking room.
Contract year, it made sense with Chase in the holdout, but
don't be that guy. Name it. Have some balls.
All right. Well, it doesn't seem like he wants to. Let's move over to Vic.
I know he doesn't. It's fine.
Vic Sibilia. What's up, Vic?
What up, Vic? How you doing, man?
He said, "What are we supposed to do with Mahomes and Kelce?" Yeah, I mean, look, I know people are worried. Kelce, 91% of the snaps yesterday or 2 days ago. He also had a 41-yard catch negated for a holding call, and they just lost Pacheco. They're going to have to lean on this guy. I think part of Casey's plan was to ease his workload a little bit, maybe because they got to worry about the playoffs, but. He's going to have to be involved. I mean, the way they're utilizing Xavier Worthy, it's kind of like we predicted. Like, I don't think Xavier Worthy is just going to get this extremely big workload. Like, guys like Justin Watson are seeing the field. Like, Juju Smith-Schuster's still getting out there. So, they're fine. They're going to be okay.
They're going to be okay, but it just brings me back to this point. And then, Anthony, I know you could speak on this, especially because you and I were both guys that were like Kelce number one, Mahomes number one. I will just say though that this bleeds right into that. I feel like every single offseason we hear, like Kansas City wants to get a big name wide receiver, and they just never do. And maybe they finally need to just maybe next offseason, even though knowing these guys, even though things look dire, or not even dire, but things don't look as pristine, they'll probably win another Super Bowl. But maybe they should finally go ahead and actually bring in a top tier wide receiver, do what it takes to bring one in. So they don't have this thing where it's like, well, we got this guy, but we've got Watson too. We'll target Watson. It's almost, again, it's like an island of misfit toys over there in Kansas City a little bit. And I do think maybe there was a philosophy that they want to ease Kelce a bit because he's getting a little bit longer in the tooth, and they clearly need him in the playoffs. Which once he got to the playoffs last year, he went absolutely ape shit. But Pete, to your point, I do think that there's a point where it's like, all right, well, now we got to use him. Like, okay, okay, now we have to cut the foreplay. Now we have to actually use Travis Kelce. So I think that happens. I think both Mahomes and Kelce will be fine, but I don't judge somebody for worrying based on what you're used to seeing. Anthony, what do you got?
Listen, I was one of the ones all in on the discount we were getting for Kelce and Mahomes. I have a lot of builds, and through 2 games, kind of blowing up in all of our faces. The process was right because, like, if you look what you said, maybe they bring in a big receiver. They have Rice. They brought in Hollywood Brown, who was a wide receiver one most of his career in terms of like how teams utilized him. He had the shoulder injury. That that it was supposed to be short term, it became a season ender. They brought in Worthy. When you look at all the weapons around Mahomes, he was going to have a bounce back year. And when it comes to Kelce, I think last week, like, okay, I get Baltimore shutting him down, game planning him out, but like last week, Kelce almost scored a touchdown third quarter. It was tackled inside the 1 yard line. And then the following play, it was a tackle eligible to Wanya Morris. Like, that is just shit luck. When you lose Isaiah Pacheco, they just signed Kareem Hunt, who was on the street for a reason. Carson Steele, like, and what do they got? Samaje Perine, who had 1 touch. I agree with everybody else. They're going to have to utilize Travis Kelce. They have no choice at this point to make up for that Isaiah Pacheco production.
Now Mahomes on the other end,
like I was saying, I get he's if you want to say he's a running back, he's also a chain mover. So that chain mover is probably going to become Kelce again.
It is, but I think there is cause for concern for Mahomes. I will say that. He just hasn't been great for fantasy. We were in on Mahomes because with the addition of the weapons, we assumed. But like with Brown down, Pacheco gone, like it just I don't know. I don't even know if top 5 finish is in the cards for him this year. And that hurts to say. I own him in Dynasty. I thought I lucked out. I thought I had the golden ticket when I've had him for 2 years for my Dynasty league, and he hasn't done shit for me, right? So I would be worried about Mahomes. Honest to God, I would consider offloading Mahomes for a guy like Jaden Daniels if you can get something else on top of it.
In the Dynasty league or in the redraft league?
In redraft. I mean, Daniels with the rushing upside, the game script, they're playing from behind a lot. I don't know. Look at what he's done the last few weeks. I know it's an overreaction, and I'm not saying to do that just yet. But
good. Sorry.
No. I'm just. It looks gross for Mahomes. I mean,
it does. I would say in terms of your overreaction, though, I wouldn't have scoffed as much if you said Kyler Murray.
Well, sure, but I don't think you're getting.
Maybe you're not getting Kyler Murray.
I don't think anybody's doing that. I mean, maybe you get Anthony.
You could find some schmuck that's stuck on name value that wants to just
listen. After this season, if Kansas City, if this offense plays the way it is, which is just good enough to win, almost like last year, they go ahead and win another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then I think what we have to start considering with Mahomes that. Because Brady had what, like they say he had had multiple careers. In one career, this is now becoming a defensive team.
Yeah,
they're winning with defense. Like, and I'm looking at the ADOT in Patrick Mahomes' career. His average target depth in 2020 was 9. Then I went to 7.7, 7.8, and then the past 2 seasons 6.7 and 6.1 this year. Like. And then the sack percentage this year is at a 7 already. And last year, 4.3, which was another high. So maybe a mixture of offensive line issues, receiver drop percentage in the past 2 years, 5.9, 5.7. Previous, it was into 4s. There's a lot going on with this offense. But like what's good for them and bad for the rest of the league, they've drafted well defensively.
So here's the only other argument, and I'll close out, and we'll get to the next super chat. Jane Daniels, the first 2 games of his career, has 16 rushing attempts and 10 rushing attempts. He has 2 rushing touchdowns, and on top of it, okay, he's still throwing the ball a good amount. 24 attempts, 29 attempts. So he threw the ball 29 times against the Giants, and he also ran the ball 10 times. Like he's still giving you enough passing wise. Now there might not be throwing touchdowns, but he's quarterback 6 in 2 weeks. Now, granted, let's pump the brakes because quarterbacks haven't been great the first 2 weeks.
He only had 15 points last week against the Giants.
I totally get that. I totally get that. But that offense is young, and they're going the way they're using him, like he is going to have a high floor where 15 points seems like the floor for him every week, I think. To be honest. So I mean,
I get why you're saying what you're saying, but I can't do it. But I get, but
Cincinnati and Arizona the next 2 weeks. I would probably put my money on it that he outscores Mahomes. I'll do a pizza bet right now and say that he outscores Mahomes the next 2 weeks in fantasy.
That's why I'm not going you crazy. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that either. But
that's why you're not crazy. I know I can't join you on that, but you're also.
I don't want to overreact too much. I don't want to overreact too much.
I don't think it's an overreaction because again, we don't want to make a pizza bet with you. If we wanted to make a pizza bet with you, that would be an overreaction for us.
Yeah.
Like with Jaden Daniels, he's completing, week 1, almost 71% of his passes. Last week, almost 80%. But like, I don't know if the average depth of target is updated yet. Like in week 1, it was 5.3. So like, yeah, you're going to complete a lot of passes when they're going to Eckler, Zach Ertz, and Brian Robinson.
But to the point though, Mahomes' ADOT's just as low, and he's not giving you the upside with his legs.
Yeah.
And the defense is worse for Washington. So they're going to have to play into a game script where Daniels is going to have to be aggressive and make things happen. So, let's get to the next super chat. I just totally want to
though.
Your mind on it. Yeah, no, crazy. I would be curious to see where we're at halfway through the year on that. But Rager Productions came in here. I believe they asked a question and then came back. So we appreciate that. It's $2 super. Said Garrett Wilson Kyron trade. And then they get Tyreek and ETN and $15 FAB. I'm thinking I'm sorting that out correctly, right? It's Garrett and Kyron for ETN and Tyreek 15. Yeah. I'll let one of you guys take that first.
Whatever side is getting the 15 Tyreek and ETN, I take that. Because I do think I know things, and Anthony's making that face, and he's clearly going to go the other way on this one, which is fine. I know the quarterback situation is looking gross in Miami, but it's a lot like almost whatever. We're 2 weeks in now, so we're thinking of it through different lenses. But during the offseason, we said, hey, are you worried about Justin Jefferson with Sam Darnold there? I mean, we did ask that question during the offseason. Now, after week 2 with like a 90-plus yard touchdown pass, we're not asking that question no more. But I'm just trying to illustrate the point that we tend to talk about players, are they quarterback proof or not? And I think Tyreek is a player who's quarterback proof because he's that damn fast. He's that damn good. I think Tua being out hurts Jalen Waddle.
I agree.
But I don't, and listen, I don't think Tyreek is going to be gracing the cover of Madden next year, which maybe he shouldn't, looking at CMC now. But I would take the Tyreek end. I would take the Tyreek end. I would take the ETN end of it because, the Rams offensive line is not looking so hot. They've got injuries everywhere over there. And also Kyron Williams has, he's gotten hurt before. And on top of that, you're getting an extra $15 in fab, which you may need on the back end. So I would go that way in the trade. But I get it if people think I'm crazy, but I'd go that way in the trade. I would want that side more.
Yeah, I don't think it's that crazy. I'm trying to pull up the games that Skylar Thompson played and how Tyreek did in those, but I don't have enough time to piece them together.
Not good. I did that already for the video reaction, and it wasn't good. So I'm gonna start here with this trade. I'm gonna keep the wide receiver with the better quarterback. That's Garrett Wilson, and I think the running backs were kind of looking at a push. But like Tyreek, yes, historically has been quarterback proof. I don't think he's Skylar Thompson proof. Remember, they played a playoff game together.
There's limits to quarterback
and it was
proof.
not good. Tyreek is also around 30 years old. I just if you know,
I think if Tyler Huntley gets in, I think it actually could be better for them.
You bring up
honestly.
Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was a former top 5 pick. Where was Skylar Thompson drafted? Where was Huntley drafted?
Come on. That's not
Snoop. Snoop Huntley.
No.
Snoop.
No.
Is it the same guy?
No.
Yes. Same guy.
But this is you getting too sensitive because I brought up Sam Darnold. I'm not saying Sam Darnold's on the same level of Skylar Thompson. I'm saying don't tell me that you didn't say during the offseason ever, is there anything to worry about with Justin Jefferson because Sam Darnold's now his quarterback? That's all I'm saying.
But I also thought
you're going to go,
there was a chance that Sam Darnold was also going to play well.
I know that already. Like, you're not breaking news. I know that Sam Darnold's better than Skylar Thompson. I'm just saying we asked that same question of a quarterback who we deem to be not as great.
Let me ask you, though, who do you trust more, Kevin O'Connell or Mike McDaniels? This is an honest question at this point in time. Who do you trust more?
I think you're picking between two great coaches in terms of offensive philosophy. I guess I'd go Mike McDaniel, but if anybody said Kevin O'Connell,
I would go O'Connell. I mean, the thing is, O'Connell showed that he could do it with guys off the street.
Yeah, and I would not argue with you.
You know, McDaniels, we just haven't seen it without the elite weapons.
And, I will just say the last thing, and I'm sorry, Anthony, then you can go. I will say the one great thing that happened to Sam Darnold was that he went from Kyle Shanahan to Kevin O'Connell. Like, the kid is finally in good offensive coaching hands. Finally, these last 2 years, finally, good for him.
And when it comes to this running back split, I do think when it comes to touches, ETN, he's not getting that full workload this year, and that's a little concerning. Like, ETN, through 2 games, he's had 14 touches in week 1, 16 touches in week 2. Remember last year when he was popping off, he was getting it all. This year, he's conceding a little bit. And when Tank Bigsby wasn't playing, like Dearness Johnson saw like week 1, ETN 34 snaps to Bigsby 17. Bigsby hurt last week. ETN 39, Dearness Johnson 16. So there are, the conceding snaps to these other running backs, and Bigsby did touch the ball not Bigsby. Dearness Johnson 5 for 26. Kyron's still kind of getting that Kyron workload. Maybe a little bit less because of game script or otherwise, but I don't know. I think I'd rather keep the Garrett Wilson and Kyron Williams side. But that's just, are we splitting hairs? Possibly, but like
a little bit.
When it comes to when it's all said and done, we don't know when Tua's coming back. He's on IR, which means he's at least 4 games. And what happens after that?
Yeah, they said the earliest he can return
I think he's gonna come back. He's gonna
come
back.
But by that time,
I kind of wish he wouldn't.
But by that time, can you what if you lose those games because you traded for Tua? And I get what's his name? Like Garrett Wilson isn't doing great right now, but if you watch that Titans game, Aaron Rodgers is starting to look comfortable.
Yeah, he looked a lot better.
And Garrett, for what it's worth, had Snead. I think Pete brought it up when we were going into last week that Snead was going to be a tough matchup, and Snead was a very tough matchup. So I would rather just keep the guy with the better quarterback right now. I just don't. I don't know. Skylar Thompson, I can't stomach it. I can't.
Okay.
I think Tyler Huntley is a better quarterback. I actually liked what I kind of saw from him in Baltimore. Is he a starting caliber guy? No, but I've never watched a game with Skylar Thompson in the 8 that he's played and sat there and said, yeah, this guy could get it done for a game if you need him. Like Tyler Huntley, I've seen him, but I've seen it with Huntley. So, but I agree with Anthony. I think, for the running backs, though, I prefer ETN. I say that only because this Rams offensive line is so bad, and they they could have to go into rebuild mode if in 4 weeks, if they don't turn this around and Cup isn't back and Puka's not back, like Cup might go on season IR if they're not in it by the time. I mean, they're talking 6-7 weeks possibly for him. By the time he comes back, they might just shut him down. And then with Puka and Nakua, he probably comes back. But like, who the heck knows? They're talking about, I mean, people are going overreacting and saying maybe they trade Stafford. That ain't happening. I mean, I think that's a little much. Unless they're here at the trade deadline and they have 0 wins, maybe they go to a team like Miami and trade them. But to Anthony's point, I think you stick with Hill. I think you stick with Garrett Wilson, and you just roll with what you have.
That's fine. Yeah.
In terms of questions, I mean, there's a lot of I'll try to, I mean, I don't know. Do you see anything that comes? Why don't we go to Debbie? She asked us a
Debbie?
question. Now, this is like 40 minutes ago, Debbie. So I don't know if you're still here, but if it, we'll reach out to us on Twitter if you need anything. She said, "Hey guys, help hurting with injuries. 2 leagues, both PPR, super flex. Said quarterback 1 need question 1 need 2 wide receivers. Dell, Worthy, Shaheed, Adunze, or Higgins if he plays this week." Let's just break it off in terms of that. I think Shaheed is the must start out of these guys before getting into anybody else. And maybe I think Higgins, you have to start him if he plays over the rest. But
if he plays, yes. But if not, I think I go Worthy slightly over Tank Dell. Slightly.
I agree. Anthony?
And Debbie is still here.
Oh,
so
look at that.
Appreciate you for sticking around, Debbie.
Need 2 wide receiver, running back, Delworthy.
I will say, while Anthony,
listen, if Higgins is up, you start Higgins against Washington. I am willing to roll that dice.
Sure.
And who does Houston and Worthy play? That's why I don't like doing start sits on a Tuesday.
Well, I will just say, while Anthony thinks, I will just let Debbie know while Pete looks that up or Anthony looks it up or somebody looks it up. I will just say, though, to Debbie, because people did join our DFS contest, but it did not actually run. That's because I did a snafu with the if it wasn't full, it wouldn't run. This week, we will do it again. We will do a $5 entry DFS contest for FFA off, and it will run whether it's full or not. So Debbie and everybody else.
We'll send that in here. We'll send that in here on Thursday so we can start getting people to fill up.
I was just going to say, Debbie made me think of that, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
These are just, outside of Higgins, a lot of these are tougher matchups. I guess I would go Tank Dell.
Oh, I thought you were going to go Shaheed.
I don't really like it.
Really? You're not going Shaheed?
Actually, no, I lied. Shaheed against Philly. Philly's one of the worst secondaries in the league, and they just gave a big place to Darnell Mooney. So
I think it's Shaheed for sure.
So he might get
Mooney, my boy out there.
I think we're all in agreement. It's Shaheed and Higgins, but if Higgins doesn't play, that's really the biggest question here.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't fault you for going. I honestly think the more I think about it, I think maybe Tank Dell. I think the big game is coming for him at some point.
Sure.
Worthy, I think you're just playing with fire with Worthy because you're just trying to catch the big game when it happens. And that's why I worry.
I'm cool with that. That's why I said by a hair, because I could see because you're right. That game is coming for Dell. It's coming.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the question, I feel like is a little bit easier. Walker, if he's active, he gets the matchup against Miami. And if he's down, Jameson Williams, I just had the matchup up there, but it's a kind of a cake one as well. Detroit is playing Arizona.
Yep. I would go Jameson Williams.
And Zona's defense looked good this past weekend, but they were very leaky in the secondary.
That's what they're going to be. They were also playing a Rams team that was just getting decimated by injuries. So, I mean, that kind of helps the process.
But hey, look, Shakir, it's coming. I'm telling you now. That game script was there for him last week. If they didn't end up in a blowout, I think he had 5 catches for 50. So I think Shakir is still a good buy low right now, guys. Honestly, if you're looking for that with all these injuries,
every day when I'm at work, I'm writing clear Shakir all over my Trapper Keeper.
You just keep thinking about him.
I did.
Anthony's got to fact check Albert here. He said Tyreek
yeah.
had 3 good games with.
Yeah. I saw that. Anthony's
I couldn't
working.
find it, so go ahead.
Can I pull up a question selfishly that I saw that I think is interesting? I know
I'm just pulling random ones.
I know that's, but this
just
one
go
came
for
at the end. This one came with this last one that come in, but I saw it was Anthony. Interesting. Anthony on YouTube. Thank you, Anthony. He said, "Should I trade Barkley for ETN and Godwin? PPR redraft." I would love to know who your wide receivers are, because that might help me. That might help sway me, but I would say no. I would keep Barkley. That offensive line is blocking for Barkley.
No, I ain't doing that.
So I don't think I do the deal. But I just thought it was an interesting question to ask you guys.
I don't think it's a bad trade. It's respectfully, I don't really think it's
what were the parameters? Barkley.
It was
ETN
Barkley for ETN and Godwin. PPR redraft. And are you fact checking?
I am, but I want to get to this trade. I don't think I can. You can make that move, and I want to get my hands on Chris Godwin. And ETN's not even bad, but Saquon Barkley, with the way they're utilizing him, they're trying to get him the red zone carries, the end zone carries. They are throwing him the football. Like when I said that, hey, Saquon Barkley can have a CMC type of season, CMC type of impact. One of the biggest rebuttals, they don't check the ball down to running backs. They don't throw the ball running backs in Philly. What people didn't realize, I think they overlooked this. They didn't have a Saquon Barkley caliber running back in Philly. There's not that many of them to go around. And when you have one, you use them. So we are seeing, Saquon 2 games, 2 receiving touchdowns so far. Kellen Moore, if anybody remembers, running backs were like one of the big reasons why people love Pollard in Dallas early was because he was the pass catching back for Kellen Moore.
Right.
And so I think you hold Barkley. If you had to sell Barkley, I would want elite level talent back. And I like these guys, but I don't think they're elite level talent. Like you would have to, I don't know. I would want like a Justin Jefferson and an ETN back.
Wow.
Which you're probably not getting.
Right.
But
that's how valuable. I think Saquon at this rate, he's a top 3 player in fantasy football, number 1.
Everyone's gonna look at that drop pass, but every run that guy had, that's like 8 to 10 yards a clip, just like going off.
I mean, it's crazy how many people. I mean, look, are we this surprised that Saquon Barkley, behind the best offensive line of his career, looks phenomenal? I mean, it was amazing that people faded him. I really just didn't understand it. But I do want to say he did give context and said he has AJ Brown and Mike Evans as well. But look, Barkley might be utilized more. It wasn't like Devonta Smith was feasting like with AJ Brown out. If AJ Brown misses a few weeks, like Barkley's workload only gets probably bigger, not lower. So, and he's probably gets more red zone opportunities with AJ Brown out. Whistle Dick comes in here and says,
Anthony's favorite.
Shakir is on waivers. Do I take him over the Kansas City running backs, or do I go with Deontay Johnson and Demarcus Robinson? I would take him over all the KC backs. I'd take him over Deontay Johnson. Demarcus Robinson, I could see the case.
Yes,
but I'm still going Shakir.
Me too. Demarcus Robinson would be the one that makes me think longer. Yeah.
I agree. Anthony.
Yeah. Right there with you, buddy.
I mean, so are you asking? So you have Deontay and Demarcus, and you're asking, do you drop one of these over Shakir?
No, I think all of them are on waivers. Let's just assume he can keep Shakir. He can pick up Shakir and either drop or add one of them.
My 2 priorities would be Shakir and Demarcus Robinson. I understand the 2 KC backs, but they also just signed Kareem Hunt. And in week 5, CEH will be eligible to return. So that backfield could be very, very murky.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's get to a super chat here because we just got one in from Jonathan Santiago.
What up,
Jonathan? You guys are really showing love, so we appreciate that. He said trade Wilson or Devontae Adams. Trade Wilson or Adams and Bowers for Jettas. So I guess he's saying he can pair up Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams with Bowers to get Justin Jefferson.
No, because I mean, And Bowers for no, I don't want to trade Bowers, and I know I take jabs at anything left and right about Bowers.
Take your
I do.
victory
Blah, blah,
lap.
blah, blah,
That's
blah.
all right.
No. It's not even a victory lap because those just well, okay. You're putting up the graphic, fine. It's a fucking victory lap. But Bowers has been great the first 2 weeks, getting targeted a lot. Mind you, the tight end position has been a bit of a cesspool in the first 2 weeks. So I mean that victory lap's a quick one. It's more of like a 200 meter as opposed to a 400 meter. But I don't think I'd do that deal though. I think I'd rather have Bowers. And I mean, you guys talked about Garrett Wilson earlier. You guys were on that side of the other thing we talked about there, the other trade. So I don't think I'd make that move.
So here's more context. He said, "I have McBride. If you have McBride,
okay. Well,
then I'm definitely
changes
shipping. I'm
things.
definitely making this trade."
Yes, this is why we love context on this program. Then yes, I would make the deal. Yes, then I do it.
I agree.
Yeah,
I was thinking he was going to be streaming after that.
Yeah.
But,
As
sorry,
long as you
go
have
ahead,
that stability at tight end, I think you can make the move. But which wide receiver are we giving up, Adams or Wilson at this point?
If the guy wants to take Adams and Bowers,
I'm trading.
I would rather have Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers. And I know this is funny because I said, because I'm leaning on Hill with Skylar Thompson, but I would rather have Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers as opposed to Gardner Minshew with Devontae Adams. And I know Devontae Adams took off late in the game and made me look like an idiot for my week 2 picks. But
Brock Bowers, this upcoming schedule, by the way, for tight ends, like he's going to continue to smash. I don't know if is this guy like, is he willing? Do you think you could pull this move off next week? And the reason why I always say sometimes you want to wait a week. You get the Carolina Panthers. They're, Bowers 24th against tight ends, Chargers. He, 11 PPR points, goes for almost 19 against the number 30th ranked against a tight ends Baltimore. Now you get 31 ranked against tight ends Carolina. If you wait a week and Bowers gives you, 8 for 80 and a touchdown, then how much is he worth?
I just don't like rostering both guys. You have McBride. You're going to have to pick every week. Do I start McBride? Do I start Bowers?
But he could sell higher next week.
And that's true.
Sure.
I don't know if you need to, if you think
could.
he's going to go off this week and you think his value is going to be more, then to Anthony's point, yes. But I also, if you're worried, that this trade may fall through, then I pull the trade today.
Can you start both? Why can't you start both?
I guess you could. I
could.
mean, his context though. I mean, he has Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Ayuk, JSN, Christian Watson. So in theory, his wide receivers, Adams, Wilson, Ayuk. Are you benching one of those 3 to start McBride and Bowers? And he's got JSN who just went off last week too.
No, I get it. You got a lot, but like
I think you tear up.
You could probably make the case depending on matchup in a given week to bench one of those guys to start the 2 tight ends. But again, that's all matchup.
What would the return again be?
It would just he would
Jefferson.
Get Jefferson.
Justin
all
Jefferson.
Right. Yeah, I think you do it.
And you're dealing with you're 2 guys on the Raiders offense. Like, I mean, are they going to show out for fantasy every week? I don't know if I can consistently say that.
Yeah.
And you have Bowers. I mean, you have McBride. And quite honestly, Garrett Wilson's ceiling's higher than all 3 of those. All 2 then is the highest ceiling guy. So you keep Wilson and you tear up with Jefferson, who looks like even with Darnold, he's going to be a top 10 guy this year at the position. And that's saying it lightly.
And the reality is they have a great matchup. Like if you can move off of both Adams and Bowers, they're going to go off this week against Carolina. It gets tougher. Again, you get Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh, the next 3 games. So like if you make this move, don't start motherfucking us because they're going to pop against Carolina. But then in weeks 4, 5, and 6, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh.
Anthony's family show.
This is a different, like that run of defenses, like because Denver's defense, that's bad as that offense is, that defense could be outstanding this year, especially defending the pass. You got Surtain on Adams, Pittsburgh, what they, with fucking Watt, what he's going to do to
Man,
Gardner
family
Minshew.
show. Jesus.
And Cleveland,
respect,
their
Anthony. Come on.
defense is going to play well. So,
All right, let's roll through. We're coming up at the end here, but some guys have sent the same question in like 5 times, so
Coming up
let's
on
just
an hour
throw
and a
them a
half.
bone here. Jack said trade Waddle for Ridley.
Yes.
I don't think it's that crazy. Ridley's got a nice schedule coming up. I threw that up already.
No. Please put that up again.
That'd be nice. I mean, it
Oh,
wouldn't
it's
shock me
great,
if we
All
see
right.
something like that in the future.
we might have to get merch with Whistle Dick on it now. This. All right, come on, let's go. We gotta be serious.
All right, trade Waddle
I
for Ridley. What
apologize
do you,
for nothing.
quick answer for Jack here. Let's and so we can
Got him.
answer the rest.
I got him. No, I said I would do it considering what's
trade
going on at quarterback now. Yeah, I would do it. Yeah.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Even though things are not looking great with that passing game in Tennessee, I would still do that deal.
I know. Evan Roher said Zach Moss or Jerome Ford half PPR rest of season.
I think it's a hard question to answer only because we don't know exactly when Nick Chubb's going to be back, which is obviously going to affect the answer.
Foreman
here.
got more touches last week, I think, right?
Right. I think I'd go Zach Moss here, but I don't. While I prefer Zach Moss, I don't say that with confidence. I don't plant a flag. I think Zach Moss is going to be frustrating at times, if I could say it. So yeah. Or should I panic on? Should I? Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. Let's do the running back, and then we'll do the panic on Kirk.
Yeah.
Anthony, what do you got?
I don't know.
Zach Moss or Jerome Ford?
Moss is dominating snaps right now over Chase Brown, but the matchups are going to open up a little bit. The next 2 games, they get Washington and Carolina. Then Baltimore gets a little bit tougher than New York Giants. So, the matchups are going to open up for Zach Moss. And then when you got Ford here, he significantly lost ground to Donta Foreman. But these matchups, New York Giants, Raiders in the next 2 weeks. So, I think both of these running backs have nice matchups. It's just a matter of who do we trust more. I think I'd probably hold Jerome Ford just because there's a lot of volatility, right? Ford, knock on wood, is the healthy guy. Nick Chubb, he seems to be getting banged up a little bit more and more. Even when he comes back, do we trust him? And also, Donta Foreman, I love the guy to death, but his injury history isn't exactly favorable either. So I think I'm going to hold the player on the team that runs the football more efficiently, and that's Cleveland.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me get to Sebastian here. He said, do I trade Dobbins and Michael Pittman for Garrett Wilson full PPR? And if they say no, who should I target? I think
What was the trading question? I'm sorry.
He said Dobbins and Pittman for Garrett Wilson in a full PPR league.
Without knowing the context of your entire roster, which I know
yeah.
we're going to end this show soon because we're almost at an hour and a half, but without knowing the entire context of your roster, which, by the way, I will actually take the opportunity, Sebastian, just say, if we don't get to all your context, you can always comment on this video, and we will definitely, one of us or both or multiple of us will get back to you. But without knowing the context, I don't think I make that deal. I know Pittman he's out there for a lot of snaps. He still has a target share, but he's not going off at the moment, and I don't know when that's going to happen. But I'm slowly starting to buy into Dobbins, which means, knowing my luck, he'll get hurt soon. God forbid. But I'm starting to buy into Dobbins a little bit now. So I don't know if I make that deal. Anthony?
I make it.
You make it?
I would do it to get a Garrett Wilson type caliber. Yeah, I said it earlier about Chase. If you can return on a guy you got on waivers for Jamar Chase or one of those first round receivers or running backs. Yeah. Definitely. And I love Dobbins. I was adamantly against trading him last week because I think the value is going to go higher. Now it's higher because we are having conversations about buying low with J.K. Dobbins on Jamar Chase and getting a guy like Garrett Wilson back.
Okay. Yeah, and Josh Downs comes back. Pittman Pittman doesn't look like
I'm worried
the
about
same
Pittman. I
guy.
faded Pittman
Yeah.
all offseason.
I loved him at the start of the offseason, but as it went on, I started to get less and less on him.
Yeah, he was my bold flag plant for my bust of the year.
And
In the archives too. I
last,
make this trade.
I would say last week, Alec Pierce played 5 more snaps than Pittman.
Yep.
What that's worth. For what that's worth.
No,
And
did.
Downs is coming. And Downs is coming back. Let's get Jared, and then we'll get out of here, guys. Because Jared asked this question like almost an hour ago and sent it in 2 more times.
Appreciate you.
We did answer Jared initially, but I don't know if he was here to see this. But let's just get to this, and if you have questions,
well, this is a different question than what he asked earlier.
Yeah, he said Mike Gesicki or Kincaid this week, full PPR.
This question's got to go to Anthony first.
Yeah,
unless you got something, Pete.
Let Anthony take it. That's fine.
Oh, so
that's his boy toy. So
Kincaid, this matchup, he looked like he was going to get going early. He suffered some kind of an injury, came back into the game. By that point, the game was over. They didn't really have to throw a lot. And now this matchup is not getting any better. Jacksonville is actually kind of tight against tight ends. You can beat them throwing the football to your wide receivers, but they've been pretty stout against tight ends. And then you have Gesicki this week. I know they get Washington, but what did I say earlier? Washington is giving up nothing. They're number 1 against the tight ends, but why? Is it because they're getting beaten by receivers too much, or are they just that good at shutting down tight ends? I would probably, and I think you can start both because tight end position isn't great, but I might lean Dalton Kincaid just because of that. Like there is a chance that, Jamar Chase and whoever the other receiver is, they just go ballistic and Gesicki might not be needed as much. And I do think Gesicki's a big part of this offense, but I don't know, it just seems like from the first 2 games, it's wide receiver, bombardment against this secondary.
Yeah, I mean, if Higgins is, I was just say if Higgins is there, it's not even a question. I'm starting Kincaid. If he's not there, I can understand going back and forth and pondering it, but I'm still starting Kincaid. I don't think the matchup. I know the Jags have been stingy, but Bills are at home. And honestly, we have yet to see this Bills offense click. And when it does, this is a matchup that I feel like, the game will be closer. And because of that, because the Jags defense has been good, I think that will lead them to leaning more on Kincaid, which they haven't been able to do. Week 1 was weird, and last week they blew him out. But the offense started to open up a little bit last week, and then it didn't matter because, again, they blew him out. So I start Kincaid.
And I agree with everything you guys said. I'll just simply do a little PSA on guys like Kincaid, guys like Sam Laporta, which you guys covered on yesterday's show. Listen, I said earlier, tight end's been a cesspool. It's been a slow start. It's been ugly. It has not been pretty, but some of these guys, while they might not perform to people had Sam Laporta as being the tight end 1 in their rankings. While I don't think we're going to get that, I do think we're going to start to see these guys, the Kincaids, the Laportas, start to play up to what we saw last year a little bit more, as opposed to what we've seen in these first 2 weeks. So I would just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, I would also go Kincaid here.
Awesome. All right, I think we'll close out, guys. Jared said, thanks, guys. Love the show. Thanks for sticking with us, Jared. You were here for a while, and we're glad we were able to get you on that.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Like the show, though, it would really appreciate it. And if you guys have questions, obviously drop it in once the show closes out. But Anthony Hoff, who wants to do the honors here?
Oh, I got the outro. Oh, yeah. Because, listen, we're going to be back to you. What? Are you saying something, Anthony?
Oh, the music cuts you out. We might have to stop doing that.
Son of a bitch. Well, we love everybody. We appreciate everybody. We'll work on the music. But until next time, stay thirsty. Be kind to one another. We'll catch you on the flip side. Cheers.